Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to show you the very chaotic process of making my birthday dress, which I came up with last minute. Now I still did not have the picture in mind, but I was just gonna make something. These are the tools that I went for. They are listed on the screen if you can see them. I'm not going to go into too much details on the way I made my pattern, if I should even call it that. I'll probably have a different video on that, which should be like more in depth. So let's just go ahead and do that. So my birthday came up during exam week, so I had exam, and because of that I did not really plan. I knew I was gonna make a dress, but I didn't plan it that well. So I had run out of pattern paper, so I had to use this interface to make do, to just give me something to work on before I actually touch my fabric, because I'm using velvet and velvet is expensive, so we don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to do a marathon through the pattern process that I used. I did not use anything else. I just kind of like used my head, as that would make sense. So I have my measurements on that tiny paper that you can see on the interface and paper, and I just transferred my measurements, and I made sure that I added an inch. Actually, I always add like an inch and a half or sometimes 2 extra inches, because I like to leave room in my outfits or my dresses when I'm sewing, because in case I gain weight, even if it takes a century, I don't want to throw my clothes away. So after I transferred all my measurements onto the interfacing paper, I used the rotary cutter to obviously cut it at the extra 1 inch that I added. I think, yeah, 1 inch that I added. And then obviously the next step would be to go to the material or my fabric. This is a velvet blue fabric I'm using. I would like to say the quality is on the higher part, yes, because yeah, it was a tad bit costly. I've had it for like a couple months. So I folded my fabric into 4, and I also folded my pattern interfacing, of course, before I actually added it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm pinning the fabric together, just so when I'm working on it, it does not shift around, and just even when I'm cutting it does not shift and just make things more difficult for me. So I went ahead and I put my folded pattern onto my fabric, and I also pinned the pattern onto the fabric, and then I wanted to cut it straight away, but then I decided to just trace out or draw out the shape. Of course, I added an extra, so on the actual fabric I added an extra inch or somewhat. I kind of like eye gauged the extra inch, but yeah, which in total would make 2 extra inches, because I initially had 1 extra inch on my pattern, and then now I've added an extra inch on the fabric. So that means the pattern plus the fabric extra inch makes 2 extra inches than the original size. So I shaped it up. I tried, went over it to make sure that I'm at least close to having very accurate measurements, and then I will proceed to cut it. So I also proceeded to cut the back. The look I was going for was a lower open back. I wanted to do a V style, but I decided to go for a more rounded semicircle kind of shape at the back. So I used the pattern or my interface pattern as my measurement, since I measured my back length, and I cut the round shape that I wanted. That also I hoped. I cut it a tad bit smaller than I initially planned to. When you're using stretchy fabric, you want to like cut things smaller, because if you cut it smaller, you can always get bigger if it's not working out, as compared to cutting it too big and then now you have to make it smaller. So I proceeded to use my rotary cutter to cut out the shape in the round. You can tell that I've gone like half an inch smaller than it originally I originally drew the line. So that's the second line is where I want it to be, and the first line that I cut is what I'm cutting, so I'm going to fold that over, double fold it, and then I'm going to sew over it. And when I did that, this is what it looks like. So this is just the back. It's easier to do the back first and then put the two front and back together than to like sew the entire outfit and now try to cut the back. So the next thing that I do is take the front part of the dress and lay it on the wrong side in such a way that the right part is facing up, and then I put the back side with my now opened and exposed back line on top of it, and then I pin them together. This helps to get a better view of how the dress is coming along, and this is not even close to what I thought I was going to make. But yeah, the only thing I have fixed right now is that the back of the dress was open. That's been a constant. So I pinned both of them together, and I'm just going to sew the parts where you can see my finger making the shapes. I'm going to sew those two parts together. The thing that I was going for was that I was inspired by this Versace safety pin dress. So even though I'm sewing the two sides of the dresses together, eventually when I'm done, I'm going to have that one side open. So that means I'm going to have to undo the seams of one side. I'm choosing my right side from my armpit, or should I say below my bust, that right side, all the way down to my waist or my thigh. So I'm gonna undo that part of the seam, then I'm going to hook it with safety pins, just normal safety pins, because I don't have Versace safety pins, I beg. So I proceeded to sew it, and then I cut the slightly excess fabric on the shoulder so it lays a bit more flat than it looked. After that, I tried it on, and this is the way it currently looked. It was starting to come together. Now I just needed to get some arms and the seam, the side that was going to be open. So for the arm, what I did was I had two extra, like I had enough fabric. I had the fabric in excess. So what I did was I cut two long pieces of fabric. Unfortunately, I forgot to record that part, my bad, but they were the same length and the same width, and I sewed the sides together, like one side each, because I was gonna have the arms open and not fully closed. So I just needed the sides and the ends to be sewed together, which is what I'm doing right now. You can see I'm folding one side and then I turn to the other side and I fold that over too, and I'm just going to sew that over. It's kind of like sewing the ends of your dress so that the ends does not fray. That's what I did, and then hold it by the pins, and then we would sew it, and that's basically how it goes. So after I sewed the arm, I attached it to the armpit area, and then I sewed it. I attached the arms together and then I sewed over it. So this is what the dress is like. The back is open. The neckline I have left like that because that's gonna be my last but one thing that I deal with. So now that the arms are together, you can see they're long sleeves, but they're going to be open for like the most part. They're just attached, but they're an open long. So for the neckline, I folded the dress into two on both sides again, and then I wanted to get some sort of like a squared, not very sharp squared kind of neckline. So I cut the phrase off of it to get like a bit of a proper line, and then I grabbed some extra fabric, the fabric pieces that I had, and I wanted to use this part where I'm showing with my finger because it had a bit of a nice different touch to it, so I wanted to use that as my neckline. So what I did was I cut it and then I folded it and I traced it onto the dress or the neckline itself to kind of get a view of the way it was gonna be or look like, and then I sewed that neckline itself before I put it on top of the dress, the actual neckline. That way it was more secure and safe. So at this point we are basically give or take done with the dress. The end of the dress I had already folded in. I just had to cut the extra neckline fabric and make it look better. So I folded my dress end and I ran it over, and this is what we ended up with. So the long sleeve arms that I made, the back that I cut, and the extra fabric neckline, I made it go behind so I could tie it together to give the dress a bit more hold. So this is what we ended up with. I really like it. You can see the seam, the safety pins is what I wanted to say. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. It turned out a tad bit shorter, but we have stockings to work with this. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video, and let me know what you think in the comments. This was very chaotic for me to make, so it turned out better than I thought it was going to, because it was super unplanned. Okay, bye.